Okay, there might be some delay. Or I go to your channel again. Sometimes there's an issue with... Yes, we are live.
Welcome! Alright, before I forget, we're gonna unmute Anna. There we go.
Yay!
Okay, hey guys, welcome to the 5,000 member special stream. And obviously, congratulations to everybody, and thank you so much for being part of the Swatches group. We're specifically talking about the Facebook group, is where we really started congregating together, and yeah, I'm just really excited and thought we'd do just a special little live stream here where we talk about some different art topics that you guys can throw me throughout the program. We'll answer those. I've been collecting some images to do paint overs of for the last while, and Anna's pulled out some time from her schedule to hang out with us for a bit. So, what do you think about the group here, Anna? We have some decent people.
Wow. Just wow, guys. 5,000 members on the Facebook group. That's amazing. And there's so much activity. I want to thank you all for critiquing, for posting your stuff there, for posting your questions, reaching out to us, reaching out to the others. It's a really amazing group, and I'm really happy that you're all part of it.
I'm gonna do, oh, nope, wrong one. I was gonna just turn up music a little bit. I normally have the music in the Twitch live stream, but I don't normally have it here. But I thought it would be nice for a celebration to have a little background music.
Okay, so guys, please check up for us whether our voices are around the same volume, whether you can still hear the music.
Yeah.
Just please check whether everything's balanced out. It's sometimes hard to set this up on OBS correctly. It's a program that doesn't let us check that really well.
Yeah, sometimes what we hear is slightly different than what you...
Yeah.
So we have to adjust that. But okay. Well, we've got a couple of topics going on. We just have to take a moment there to make sure all the tech stuff is going well. But we're going to be doing
they say music is loud.
Taking your questions, and then doing the maybe a little demo, and talking about some art pieces that we like, why we like them, that sort of thing. Yeah, I lowered it back down a little bit.
Okay, sorry. Sorry for interrupting you. I just thought maybe nobody can hear you because of the music.
And if you're tossing some questions to me, you'd like to hear my thoughts about something, get Anna's thoughts on something as well, then just make sure that you put it in the chat, put @swatches at the beginning of your comment. It will flag that in orange. Much easier for me to see. Otherwise, I might not be able to keep up with everything that's being said in the chat. So, let's hit a couple of announcements that might be of interest to everyone. And one is the Discord server is up and going. There should be a little text that's rotating on the bottom left of the scene here down below me, showing the link to the Discord server. We're doing this because, one, you guys have asked for it, and two, because we're kind of outgrowing the Facebook group. It was fine as long as we had less people, but when you get a lot of people out there, we just fill up the stream in the group very, very quickly, and a lot of posts that need some attention get lost down there. And so we're going to be shifting some stuff over to the Discord server. And this is what you'd have. And over on the Discord, we have just a lot of comments going on in the general. And then you can put your comments into these specific rooms. So if we're just talking about art challenges, go post your stuff in the art challenges. Ask for feedback. Great place to get feedback on the art challenges. If you're wanting a request, if you're wanting to talk about vibrance topics like health, habit, attitude, self-growth, that sort of thing, we have that. If you're wanting to share art but not looking for critique, we have that as well. So this is going to be able to hold a lot more people and make things a lot more manageable than everything being on the single feed there on the Facebook group. So we're going to start shifting some of that over there, but of course we'll be putting out a lot of the updated information of what's going on in the group, and I will still be putting that on the Facebook group. And it's a great place to still be keeping up to date with things and meeting people. Anna's out there as well, and she is an admin out there, and be on good behavior because she will ban you so easy.
Oh, easily. And you're gone.
Okay. Let's see what else is going on. The art challenge is going on. We are doing the MTG Planeswalker and Warcraft art challenge. I didn't think I would have pulled up the reference images and stuff for that. Anyway, that's going on. If you want to get in on that, we still have the Group 2 tickets. Group 1 tickets have all sold out. Group 2 will be going up this Saturday. Anna, you're going to be jumping in this one. Have you already decided which one you're going to do?
So I'm really caught between both. I think I will also sketch up for both things, some sketches, and see what I more feel a vibe for. I'm usually a huge Warcraft head. I'm really, really loving the game, and I have their artwork and their figurines and everything all around me. I love the lore. I have all the books and all the things. But what I felt was that I would be going for the one that is easier for me because it already fits my interest the most. And it's easier. I feel like it's easier to find ideas for that because it's maybe good, especially for beginners who struggle with that, to find a composition or something in this direction. And it's pretty easy to set up. You know what you have to go for, an elf or an elf and a creature, and you can do so much with it. But I felt like the monk would personally, for me, be more of a challenge because you have to design the monk. I never designed a character before completely, with like really thinking about what makes sense, what is looking good, shape language, all these things. I never tackled that. So also you are, of course you can give us tips for both, but you are for me like the incarnation of MTG. So I'm feeling like I should go for the MTG part, but everybody is free to do whatever they like, and both things are really, really great opportunities. And probably I will finish off the second one after we did together the first one. And this is something that other people could do too, if you want to do both. And if you still want some tips from Clint afterwards, after you finish the piece, you can go schedule a one-on-one with him and still get the critique you need. And so do whatever you feel like would be the best for you.
Yeah, for the challenge, you can only do one or the other, but feel free to, on your, before you commit to one or the other, do some sketches of both and see which one you're getting the most passionate about, which one you're getting the most traction with. Then run after that one. And like Anna's saying, that after you finish the one, there's no reason you can't go back and do the other one as well, because they'll both be good portfolio images. So that would be it. That's the breakdown right here of what the challenge is about, and you can go out to the swatchesart.com store and download this, or just screenshot it if you want to read the full outline. And these were the inspiration images of kind of what you're looking for with a Planeswalker and the sort of influences there with the Warcraft. Will says, I've bought the first group ticket and not even finished the Tomb of the Sphinx yet. Sucker for punishment. Hey, Will, jump on in and fish them up later if you want to. Glad to have you. Hey, Swatches, I've always wondered, do you reference your own face for your Jace and Genius Mind Mage art for Ixalan? I've always thought they looked like you. Yeah, to a degree. If you want to see the full breakdown, I have a video on making Jace. And it's like an hour long or so, and I show you step by step. So I used myself as a basis, but I ended up changing it quite a bit. Because, I don't look like Jace. He's far more handsome than I am.
I wouldn't say
he's
that.
He's got that
He's
lantern straight jaw, right?
Yeah.
Does
But I think
MTG1 have to have the waterfall, etc., just either mountains or water? No, it doesn't have to have a waterfall. The mountains is the most important thing. And so you can kind of have him down low, where you've got maybe some water reflections going down, a little waterfall there in the background. Or you can put him like this one, just way up high in the mountains. What we're looking for is something kind of atmospheric, maybe some storm clouds, maybe some clouds, going down through the pillar sort of mountains that he's around. Yep. Okay,
you should also talk about the second group we have, because some people are already writing in the chat, I couldn't get a ticket. That's so sad.
Yeah. So we're doing two groups. Everybody's doing the same challenge, but it's divided up into two groups. I can only really review 12 images at a time on a live stream. So group 2 tickets will be another batch of 12 tickets that will go up for sale this Saturday. 6 of them will go up about midday my time, and then the remaining 6 will go up about 10 hours later when I go to bed. That gives people on opposite sides of the world a chance to get it while they're awake. And Group 1 and Group 2 will both get feedback. You will have 2 weeks in order to create and submit a sketch / concept, and Anna and I will review it during a live stream. Then you'll have 2 more weeks to finish painting it and submit in the final, and we will review it again. Group 1 and Group 2 are 1 week apart. So you'll have the review of Group 1, the next week we'll have the review of Group 2. Then it will be the finish of Group 1, and then it'll be the finish of Group 2. Right? And that's how it's going to work. It's kind of like a leapfrog. And so if you want to jump in, then keep an eye on the store, and I will announce it out on the Facebook group and probably on the Discord server as well, the moment that they go live out on the store. They are $20, and it gets you the 2 different feedbacks during the live streams. Okay, well, I think it's about time to do some paint overs. We've got 26 images that were submitted for the paint overs. I'm just using a random number generator in order to pick one. We've got 22, so that would be 4 back. It'd be this one. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so Mitch Rose with Mind Control is what we're going to be doing first with a paint over. Now, I don't know any context to any of these images. That's not what we're really working on. We're just going with, it's dropped in my lap, what would I do with it? Actually, we might just put Anna on the spot for a moment first, though. So you're looking at this one, Anna. And
yeah.
where do you think you would take it from here? What would, I don't know, give it some more impact?
So I'm having now the first time I look at this, so I couldn't like prepare or anything like that. My very first impression is that I would like to have a little bit more sharper edges around our focal points. They're quite blurry, especially in his face. It looks a little bit airbrushed to me. I would push the lighting effect a little bit more, but not by pushing more white. She used white for the light in the middle. This is a common thing that many people do. We lose so much of color. Maybe Clint can show you a way how to make things look very bright and glowy without having to push that much white. Maybe having a little bit more color in that magic. Her face looks very flat, also because of the lighting, I guess. We are missing some planes here that would receive light. And her hair feels rather thin and not floating. It feels more like, I don't know, like she's not having hair growth everywhere properly. And
yeah, it's kind of thin. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't look so... Yeah, so like flowing hair or something like that. I would get references, collect reference, and see what to work around that. These are my first impressions. Of course, there's a lot of, how to say, when both sides, left and right, are looking the same. Symmetrical. Sorry, my brain is not working today anymore. There's a lot of symmetry.
You put me on the spot. I've never seen this thing before.
And there's a lot of symmetry going on. This can flatten out a piece, but this is rather of a big change to have if you change something like that. Maybe not both facing directly us would have been a better choice. Maybe her being a little bit more turned away from us or him might have helped that. But maybe this person was exactly going for this look. So yeah. And his values and her values are super, super close. Yeah. I choose some different values for each character so that you can, even if it's tiny, make out which character ends where and who starts over there. Also, her clothes is not so much thought through. Some design changes could push this off. Yeah, I'll stop here. This is my personal thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the value certainly between the two of them is kind of getting it lost in there, so I'd be looking at punching that up. And we have that ready-made light source with this eye magic, so I'd just be running with that. I think you'd get so much more out of that. And just brighten up most of it. And of course, I'm not going to be taking this to full finish, but I'll like punch that up and kind of see where that's going. And she's got like the red going on in the background. I'm not sure if I'm like that a lot. And her shirt, but it seems like we really do need to separate his head from her a bit. I'd be looking at creating some value difference there. I guess what was that? This is where we kind of get into the artistic thing. Some cases symmetrical is fine, especially when you're just needing to convey something that's happening. It's not really about getting something super creative, because this scene could be very difficult to follow if you got a hard angle on it, difficult to understand angle. So, I mean, I've done this sort of thing before too, is do something very straightforward in order to make sure you're not losing what the image is about. Now, Anna, do you have the link to that Discord? Is that something you could share?
Yeah, the thing is I don't know why that is, but when we stream on YouTube and I put a link on YouTube, it is visible for me, but not for the others. And the same as when other people post a link there.
Oh, yeah.
They see the link, but it's not visible to all the others. So I think there's some setting where YouTube just won't allow putting that. So I put it in there with some spaces in between, and I hope it works and people can see that. Yeah, so...
You can also go out to the Facebook group,
yeah.
Swatches.group, and it's shared out there as well.
Yeah, so I put it now with some spaces in between, and I hope people can see it and copy it and delete the spaces and maybe get direct. You can later, when you put this video up on your YouTube channel, in the description put the link also for the Discord, and people can get it there as well if they don't have access to Facebook group. Oh really? Some people say they don't even see it with spaces. Let me check. So it's discord.gg, and then what is this straight line? Not the hashtag. Slash, and then I posted the HEAG6C should be the link. So it's discord.gg and then slash and then what I posted there. You can try that, or you find it later on the video description or in the Facebook group. It should be posted there also. Yeah, should work. It's a little bit weird that we cannot post any links here. I don't know why that is.
Well, you would have people just spamming bad links.
Yeah.
Get people to go places. And so, I mean, I can actually okay them, but I have to stop what I'm doing to go over there to approve every link that's shared in the chat, and I'm not.
Oh, okay. Maybe if you make me a moderator or something for Swatches on YouTube, maybe I can do it then. But by now, I cannot post any links. No?
Yeah, that's probably possible. I haven't looked into how to do that.
Yeah.
We
will see, guys.
For
the future, we will figure something out for you guys.
So here we see that if we can actually brighten up the background a bit, then the characters really pop out a lot more. And you're just playing up the whole atmospherics thing. And we want to keep that atmospheric in the background a lot less saturated than she does, in order to keep the sort of feel. There are times that you could definitely go more saturated, and you could get away with that, and it would work. But she's going with like a much more, Mitch is going with a much more desaturated background. So I'm just kind of keeping that normal along with it. And that would be a start here. I'm with you. The hair seems like something you could actually do a lot more with. So let's see, I've got like my angled bristle brush. I'd get the same sort of thing and just do more hair.
So there is a question about your materials course, if you have any updates on that.
Yes,
wondering.
Well, I'm continuing working on it. I don't know what your last information was, so I'll back up and kind of give you a running start to that answer. And that is, I put together the 20 lessons. First 7 lessons are on principles, going over things like shading, reflection mapping, opacity, these sorts of things. And then I went into talking about individual materials, such as stone and glass, etc. I thought it was about ready to put it out, and then I just had to be honest with myself that it wasn't nearly as good as it should be, or as I know it could be, and I knew what to do to fix it. So I just made the decision to go ahead and redo it. I'm keeping a lot of the same information, but I'm expounding it out. Anna, you were going through it, and you were giving me some good feedback as well, and just helping me understand kind of where the gaps were. That I would explain something, then I would have the homework have you to do something, but I didn't necessarily explain all the necessary steps between them. And so I needed to fill that out. And so that's what I've done, is I've started to go back through the course and make it so that I'm properly explaining everything. And it's just very time consuming because it means that I'm having to create a lot more images to example things, and you're laying out all of the slides, writing out all the information, and it takes a while. So I've got the first 4 lessons, I think the first 4 lessons are about finished being redone. And so that just means that I have 16 more that I need to redo. And I'm putting time into that as I can. But it's also something that I'm not yet making any money on. So I can't put all of my time into it. It still will probably be months before it's finished in order to do it properly.
Yeah, if I may jump in there.
Yep.
So I did the whole course that Clint sent me for the materials, and I walked through that and took some notes and stuff like that. And I always thought these are minor changes or things that maybe could be added or something like that. So I didn't want to make Clint having to redo everything. I'm sorry for that if I gave Clint now that impression. I think the course was already a good thing, was good to go, to my opinion. It has already much information and has good explanation, and it's really fun. Yeah.
Oh, started losing you there.
Sorry.
No, you might need to reconnect with the Skype. I think I might have lost you.
Connect them.
Okay, I heard that. Are you planning on putting it on like Udemy or something like that, or your Gumroad? Yeah, it will be available on the store when it comes out.
Yeah. So.
And because I'm going in and expounding on a lot of them, then there's going to be more like 40 lessons than 20 lessons. By the time they get redone, because each material I'm planning on doing 2 lessons per material. One is where you do like quicker practices to get the idea, then one you do like a much more detailed variation, a much more realistic approach to it.
Am I back, Clint? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, sorry. I will turn off the stream on my Wi-Fi and turn it back on my cell phone, which uses a different internet. So I hope I will be having then a better connection. Yeah, in the middle of the week, many people are coming home now from work, and then in this house, everybody uses the internet, as it seems. So I'll see. Yeah, but I just wanted to say, if I can come back to that topic. Mm-hmm. Clint already put so much work into it, and even though it was a good course, and there were just some things that I would like to see improved, and he wanted also to do it better, he decided to redo the whole thing for you guys, even though he did not get anything from it doing it the first time. So he didn't put it out there and get money for the time he spent on that. but he rather puts even more time into it to improve it even further. And I think that is something that I haven't heard of at any art mentor, art teacher online yet. So usually people post it and say, okay, next time I will do that. I'll do it differently or better or something like that. But they keep going with it. And Clint just wants to give you really just the best thing that he can offer. And I think this is a really, really great character trait. And so I want to say from the community, in the name of the community, thank you very much, Clint, for taking that time and trying to bring something for us, to us that is of so much worth. And I think people will then understand also it's worth the wait. Sorry for make you guys waiting, but in the end it will turn out all for the better, and it's going to be even a better thing at the end.
Well, you're welcome. I'm happy to, and I hope that everybody will find it as useful as I hope they do. And I definitely appreciate everyone's patience. I know that there's some people out there that are very interested in taking it and learning and doing some study on this topic. And I am trying to get out there when I can. And it is something that I would be interested in doing more topics later, because we're only covering we're covering 13 different materials. So I'd be interested in doing more materials, but it really depends on how it's received, right? I mean, if it's a popular thing, then we'll go ahead and put more time into it. But we're also looking at doing other courses as well that might not take as much time to actually put together. And those would be courses on some of the fundamentals. There is definitely some high-end, I won't say high-end, but highly skilled artists in our group that have been doing this for years, and they're really not in the fundamental stage anymore. But we definitely have some beginners as well that have never had any proper training, and they could make use of a good starter course. And most of these, if not all of these, I plan on also having workshops so that when you do the homework in the course, you're submitting it in, and we're doing a class, and I'm giving you feedback on that as well. And just get a little more metal sheen off of that. Yeah. Let's see. I feel like I was missing a question up here. Koi says, could you explain the difference between lighting and values? I get confused. Hey, that's a good question. Lighting and values. Lighting is the actual setup of the thing that's changing the values. So the lighting here is the light source and how you're choosing to use that. I'm going to switch. The values is basically the parameter. You can kind of think about it like a radio could be the source. It's the sound source. But the sound is measured in decibels. And that's the same sort of thing with light, is that the light source and the light setup is the arrangement in the scene, but it's measured in values. And so you have kind of a different thing there. You can change the lighting in this scene, and it will change the value. You'll always be changing the value when you change the lighting, but there's a separation between the two, if that makes sense. Anything you would add to that or try to clarify with that?
Yeah, so you can also think about there's a local value to everything. Like a black pen has a specific value and a white t-shirt has a specific value. But if you put them under another lighting, like in a dark shadow, or put a strong light on it, you change the value also of this. So, for example, the black can get throughout, because of reflections, could get lighter, or the white in a shadow can get darker and things like that. So the lighting affects the values, but the value represents what we see as lightness or darkness representation. So everything but color. So everything without color is basically seen in values. So Yeah. Hope I didn't confuse it even further. But the good thing is, we have the weekly challenges coming on. And the first topic we will tackle is values. So go ahead if you're
interested. Why don't you actually talk about that a little bit? People haven't checked out the group to see the post in a couple of days. They might not be aware of what's going on with that.
Yeah, so I decided to get the group a little bit more going. I had a lot of people who joined our group and they wrote things like, I want to do in swatches to study, I want to learn, I want to improve, I want to learn about lighting, colors, fundamental things like that. But then they never show up again on the group and they stay inactive and don't post anything and don't do studies. And so I thought, okay, let's take them a little bit by the hand and do a study group, like an art club together in this group. I thought about starting that on the Facebook group, but now I will have it both because people ask for that on the Facebook group and the Discord going on. I try to be active in both as much as I can. We will not lose the one or the other because there are some people who can only have Facebook and some who can only do Discord, and it wouldn't be fair to have it just on one of these medias. So I'll try to keep both going, and it will be like that I give you a general overview over the topic, maybe some notes about what I learned so far. It's not in super detail. It's not there that I'm teaching you something in detail, but I give you links where I found useful information on for videos, for tutorials. They're for free. There's some purchasable ones. There are some books I read on these topics, or I don't know, general information where you can find that on Pinterest, or pictures with little tutorials on it or anything like that. If I find something good, I'll post it there and describe what you can find there. I'm working on the text right now with the links in it, so I hope I will be finished with that on until Friday or this weekend and post it then. Then I will give you an analysis, or for example, my first topic will be analyzing Ars of Pro and masterpieces in values. And I did some analysis of these paintings in Photoshop, made some notes on it, and did some arrows and stuff like that, as you can see what I took out of there of information. And then I do my own studies and post them too for you to compare. I'm not proficient. I just say that. I'm here with Clint on the stream, but that's not because I'm like same level as Clint. This is nothing like that. I did work for companies yet, but I'm not quite at level. But I'm still a student, and I think we all are, and we can still learn from each other. So I will do as good as I can and give you tips. And there are other people in the group who are really, really good and can give you tips as well. And I just imagine it being a place where we all learn together, help each other out. And I just give a little bit of a guidance, what you could do to improve on that topic. So we are starting with values, later maybe edges, lighting, there could be anatomy. I didn't have planned out everything yet. I want to go with fundamentals first because this is the thing that most people are struggling with most. And then you can do these assignments that I give you and say, hey, here, go and try to do your take on this, on that, and you post it and get feedback in the group. And I think some people need that they have that they know, okay, this week I'm gonna study on my values, and I will post it in the group and get out there and get finally feedback, because that is the thing that keeps your art going. That is the thing how to improve, because there's so many people who are just too afraid to post something anywhere or get proper feedback and just draw wrongly or not good yet and keep doing that without critique. And I want people to get critique, and it doesn't have to be only critique of Clint. Maybe he'll be out there too, from time to time, but he's busy with materials first, in first place. Yeah. Do the materials first. Materials come first.
The main thing, guys, is just about making sure that you're keeping momentum in your studies. Just making sure that you're doing something, and it can be a lot more fun to do it, your studies, when you're doing it along with a group, and you're sharing ideas, and you're getting energy off of each other as you're working together. And none of this stuff is going to be complicated. I mean, it's just your straightforward studies, but it's the sort of thing that you have to know. And it's I just keep coming back. I always think about having momentum and getting the habit of just doing a little bit every day. And if you don't know where to work, if you don't know what to be working on, this is going to be good stuff. I mean, you're just really not going to go wrong with doing form studies, of doing value studies, of doing master studies. It's going to be a good time to put into it. Yeah, so that's pretty much where I was thinking when I looked at it, of where to take this sort of image. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with this image. Like, if it was for Magic the Gathering and I was going to do something with it, let's actually do a width. Let's do it this way at 200. Okay, and then turn this on. And then that shows you side to side what a little paint over would look like. Little big for this. Can you scale that down? Yeah. So there you go. That is a Mitch Rose art paint over. I'm trying to keep it the same spirit of the scene, but it's a lot more just about ramping up that lighting. The anatomy looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. We've kind of got like a downward tilt on the head, but not all on the lady, but maybe not all the features are really reflecting that. Just trying to push up those values in the background so that the characters stand out a bit better. Getting some more color in there. Don't be afraid of having a good pop of color in a very desaturated scene. And it makes the magic really stand out. And getting in a little of that magic glow, because we're establishing that this is a very atmospheric scene. So it would make sense that due to there being fog and stuff in the air, you could get a decent glow going on. And also just adding some little sparkly bits, some sort of a magic effect around the eyes and the hands. And I don't know if she's siphoning it or what, but yeah.
That's looking dope. Really cool.
Mitch, I appreciate you submitting the image. Enjoyed working with it, and maybe we got you some ideas of where to run with it in the future. Okay, let's do another one. And of course, if you have some questions that you find there in the chat, go ahead and shoot them to me. Number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next up is Christina F. Okay, so Christina F has a Dragonborn Paladin. Okay. What size is this at? Okay, let's go ahead and scale that up a bit so that I'm not having to use teensy brushes. So, Dragonborn Paladin. I assume we're working with a D&D or like a Pathfinder character here. And a couple of things that immediately hits my mind about what I would want to address, or how I kind of think about it, is that we've got a very stylized character. We're not going for something realistic. They have a very stylized, kind of simple form, simple, a bit cartoony for the proportions and shapes, and that's all okay. But what we want to do is make sure that that is also carried throughout the rest of the image. So we have kind of an odd stylization thing going on here, where we've got some really realistic, like metal, chromy metal, and we have some really detailed scales and some very crackly, detailed rock and leaves, but those things don't really mesh with the whole shape language and the simplified kind of cartoony version of it. So I'd actually be looking at getting more consistent with that whole thing, and backing off of some of the detail and simplifying some of the shapes. If I was to do this properly, I would begin by going out and finding some style, artwork references. I'd be looking for games that have art styles that are more simplified. And we're not going to do that right now. I'm just going to be doing it off the top of my head. So just for you to know, I wouldn't go at it this way. I would actually be going to try to find some good references, but we could spend 20 minutes doing that, and that's not an interesting stream. All right, see any questions out there, Anna?
Yeah, somebody asked about how important are fancy textured brushes, really. They see you using the square brush for the paintovers. Yeah, and they're asking about brushes in general. I think textured, non-textured, fancy ones, basic ones. Yeah.
How important are they? I don't think they're real important, honestly. I don't put a lot of stock in fancy brushes. I think having a set of brushes that meet a certain criteria is good. So in my mind, I have my kind of go-to brushes that are good for general painting. And one is this one right here, my rounded square brush. So it's basically rectangular, it gives me a flat edge, but it is softened a little bit. It's rounded, and then it also has a slight blur on the edge. And that's a good all-purpose brush. That's probably the best way to say it. It's an all-purpose brush. Same sort of way that your just hard round brush is. It's just a good all-purpose. Then you want maybe something that is more grain. Right? This one has grain pattern in it. See that there? And this is also, I would consider it basically an all-purpose brush for something that's a bit more realistic. That's not what I need for this one. I don't need to build that sort of grain into the image. So I'm just going with the basic round one that doesn't have any texture. And then you probably want your big softy. You got to be careful about using this one. It's definitely overused. I don't use it a lot, but it should be kind of in your brush set of using it. Now, if you do use that one, I do suggest that you go over and you turn on noise. I don't know that you can see that very well in the stream, but you can see the example down here, and you can see that it has some noise in it. It's speckly. Actually, I'll do one with and without. We'll make another layer in between these and do it this way. So that is with the noise, and then if you turn the noise off and do it again over here, see the difference there? This one's almost like it's too perfect. There's nothing there. It's just too perfect. It's too smooth and too airbrushy. And if you put a little noise into it, I find that it's usually a better choice. So that would be a good one. And then you want something that's like speckly, right? And so I think in terms of that, like something speckly, something soft, something straight, those sorts of things, rather than, oh, I have a grass brush, I have a tree brush, I have a armor brush, I have a scale brush, where those things are just derived from photos of the other thing. I'd say that textured fancy brushes are probably more important for concept art, such as environments. They're really well done in environments, or they're made the best use of environments, because you can indicate a lot of texture and information without having to paint in a lot. And it's worth switching between brushes occasionally, just so it forces you to kind of understand how to use them. But I also know that I could just use my basic rounded brush and paint a whole scene to a professional level without ever having to switch. Okay, so, yeah, go on. What's your thought there?
Yeah. Me too. I also only use the hard round brush, and I set it to transfer, and so per pen pressure, transfer per pen pressure. and change sometimes to airbrush and sometimes to a hard brush or something in between. So I don't have any other, I have a lot of other, but I don't use any other brushes except maybe sometimes if I have a little bit of smoke or something like that going on, I have one that looks a little bit more smoky. But I also, when I started out, I had so many, I downloaded every day 10 brush sets, I don't know. And I tested them all out and I was so disappointed because they looked so artificial and I didn't know how to work with them properly. And I had hair brushes and brushes for rocks and grass and anything like that. And I'd recommend to say, I recommend you to not try to rely on your brushes. Do not think brushes do the magic for you. That is what many people think. Even if some pro artists you see on stream or something and they just do a simple line and you just think like, this is how I felt. Wow, I couldn't even draw that line. What brush is that? It must be the brush because I do a line and it looks different. But it's much more than that. That's their line weight. Maybe they have a more sensitive tablet than you have, or they just have a different angle with their arm, how they paint, or the wrist is doing a different motion. They just know how to do these lines properly. And this continues over from line to the whole painting. And you can do all of your painting with just the hard round brush. And the things that I uploaded also on the Facebook group and when I joined the challenges is all done with just a hard round brush. And that is why I say, if you're starting out like me, don't use fancy brushes, because why would you use them? You want to use them because you think they'll do the job for you. But you must learn how to do the job by yourself first. And if you're proficient in that, you may, because of time issues like the concept painters, they have a specific time to do things. They must be quick. That's why they use brushes to do the job for them, but they know how to use them. So take the time, do it by yourself, do it properly. And after a year, 2 years, 3 years, you might consider getting the next brush set that helps you to do the fancy stuff. It's my opinion.
Yeah, first start by just learning how to do it without any fancy brushes. Other than they can make it faster, they can make it easier, but as a crutch that beginners really don't need to use, because it does not help them develop proper skill. It does not help them develop proper understanding. And I'd be looking at simplifying this in order to get a more consistent style. And this piece right here is kind of one that would take quite a while to repaint. So I'm going to repaint some things to kind of give a direction, but I'd also change this blue. The blue is just like the exact same color as his scales. I feel like if we change the color of it, it would really help it not get mixed in with his. If it was a nice orange or something, and then we use a bit more of that orange in some of the other spots. And that way we're playing off of some of the colors, because we're going for something really bright. Instead of like the really soft clouds that are more realistic and loose, we're looking for clearer cloud shapes. Go take a look at Tyler Edlin's video on painting clouds. I really love his approach, and so you start looking at the volumes of the clouds and working with those instead of just fuzzy shapes. And I'm looking at how can you simplify this. You would have to go in here and redo a lot of these. Like, these are kind of flat. They're flattening it off. Like, the scales aren't following the curvature of the forms, which makes it feel a little flat. And we're also looking for bigger scale patterns, if you're even going to do scale patterns. So it's more like nice big scales instead of bunches and bunches of little scales. This is just one that would take quite a while to repaint because you're literally changing the style of 90% of the image. Over here, we either need to make the leaves, the stone to be extra dark or really light. And with the stone, this kind of just shows a lack of understanding with the way the stones work, because people don't really build things with stones that are this small compared to the builder, because that stone is this big. That's like building a wall out of pebbles. And if you have a cathedral sort of design like this, a Gothic sort of window like this, then all of this piece is going to be one stone, because you can't afford to have a joint in the middle that could break. And so this would be one piece. This would be one piece, and you probably have one piece here that's connecting into those. And this thing would be one piece, and this would be one piece. So you wouldn't really have all of these little connections in between them. And if it just broke there, it would just break there. Clint, do you think there's a better alternative to Photoshop out there? Oh, there are alternatives, definitely. Are they better? I think that a lot of the name brand and the bigger programs and most well-known programs can ultimately get you to the same result. Whether you're using Art Rage or Clip Studio or Painter or Photoshop, they could all do professional work if you learn how to use them. I've just been using Photoshop for so long that I don't really have to think about how to set things up, and I don't have to worry about how to make all of it happen and how to paint in it. So that's what I use. But I'm sure there's improvements can be made, but it basically does what I need it to do in order to do my job. It is an option. So I'm trying to think what else I could do. Instead of doing the more realistic chrome, we've got to get kind of a, let's say, almost more like a cartoony version of metal, a bit more League of Legends style, where it's kind of just that tone, and then you're doing what you're doing here, which is you're hitting highlights along certain spots. So along the edges, you're hitting the highlights that help it feel more like metal, and you're kind of darkening things up in the corners near those highlights. And so it gives the impression of metal, but it's an illustrative way to do it. Otherwise, you need to treat everything with that level of realism. Unfortunately, that's kind of what I can do with this without spending a full 2 hours reworking. Anyway, maybe that's helpful. So, Anna, have you actually finished the rest of the materials course?
I have watched the videos, but okay. I spent now the time first for the challenge and then for the setup of the group. But I planned on, when I finished those two things, I'll go back on materials and then head to the next challenge. So this is my plan for now. I'm super busy, but I will get to there. It's like three videos or something that is missing, more body part things and the extra one. So, the others were very, very cool, really good. People you can really look forward to what's coming there. I'm looking forward. I also don't know how Clint improved the other videos yet, so I will see what he did there. And I'm also looking forward to it. How to make it even better, we will see. Yeah.
Yeah, the other videos are probably going to be changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
They're not really practically useful. I teach you how to paint one thing pretty well, but not necessarily how to apply that to more things. So that's what we'll be changing. So we're looking at this piece by Carl. Last name spelled that way that you see there. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what's going on here. We've got a tower in the background that has clouds splitting around it. That has like a blue light. And there's like blue magic swirls around it. I guess my first thing is like, I'm not sure what's happening here. So and narratively, and this is kind of the broad strokes, right? I'm not going to repaint this whole scene, but narratively, what I would have to address first is what's going on here and what is the focal point. I feel like this tower is the focal point, but it's really small in the scene. Like, most of this scene is this city. You have me down in the level of the city, down with a person, and 80% of the image is covered with the city, and you have this little tower in the background that I feel like is supposed to be the focal point, but it's off-center, and it's in the background. So it kind of makes me wonder why we don't, like, if it's about the tower, why isn't the image, more like this? Why aren't we just showing the tower? Why are we seeing so much of the city? So that would be one of my first things. If it's imperative that we have to have this because maybe there's text that runs over this side here, and so really the scene is this because that's going to be covered, then that would make sense. I would follow that. But otherwise, a lot of the scenes seems sort of redundant, and I would have to consider adjusting things to bring out the focal point. Or if you had this simply like moved over here so that the tower was centered, then that would put more interest back on the tower, and then that would help establish it as a focal point, and we wouldn't be so distracted with the city, because the city is actually acting like a framing device. And I don't know that we necessarily even need to see that side of that tower. Oh. So that feels like actually a stronger scene, because now the city's just acting as the framing device, setting a stage for what is clearly the subject of the tower.
Yeah, it helped a lot.
And then it's, okay, what do you do to the painting here in order to help it stand out better as just a image? Does that little weenie.
So if you want to, I can shoot you some questions meanwhile.
Yeah, go for it.
So there's some questions about 3D and 2D combination. So the first question was, somebody has for a background or for a landscape a 3D model setup or a 3D picture, as far as I understood it now from this post. And he wants to use this as a base to paint for an MTG style of painting. Whether it's okay to use that for MTG and such commissioned art, or what you would recommend for that. That's the first question.
Yeah, I mean, that's That is an acceptable approach to developing a scene, but MTG isn't usually looking for a very 3D model sort of approach, so you have to make sure that you're using it to establish accuracy and lighting or whatever else that you're getting out of your 3D. But that it does need to be interpreted as a painting. You need to actually paint it to a degree that it's not really a 3D model anymore. Because that's not the look that they usually go for. But I know that there's various MTG artists that use a lot of 3D basis for their pieces. So,
Yeah.
they accept it if it's done correctly. There's just a lot of ways that you can do it incorrectly, not good, and you want to definitely try to avoid those mistakes.
Yeah. And the second question connects to that. How important do you think learning 3D is as a 2D artist? And what programs would you recommend for a complete 3D beginner to learn first?
It's getting a little out of my wheelhouse. I'm a bit of a, old, and I didn't learn that stuff. Is it good? Yes, it is good. Is it absolutely necessary? No. I know a lot of artists that don't use 3D, but I also know that it can make some things a lot faster, and it is a way that you can properly check accuracy of things. So it is something that is probably worth learning. Program-wise, I don't know enough about it to really tell you. Anna, you might actually know a bit more about that than I do. What programs handle what stuff, and you're welcome to shoot them some.
Yeah, I can jump in there if you want to. So, the thing is, what do you want to achieve with this 3D? Do you just need a program for getting together quick references to, I don't know, get a character and a specific lighting in front of an object or within a landscape or something? Then you could use things like that's 3D. This is a program for you to use. You can just use some props, put them together, put the lighting on it. That's it. What do you want to achieve else with 3D? You could, for example, develop your understanding of thinking in 3D by sculpting. For example, instead of painting a face, sculpting a face, understanding the structure of this face. Then you could use Maya, which is pretty expensive, or something that is for free. That is Blender, that you also has sculpting right now. And Maya doesn't have sculpting, I think. But what was the name? ZBrush is also a program that you can use for sculpting, which was the most used probably by now, until Blender had this enabled. And I haven't worked with ZBrush. It looks really cool to use. There's a lot of things you can do with that, but I think there is no free version or completely free version, and it's quite expensive as far as I can remember. So I'd recommend to, if you want to do it for many different things, like having sculpting, having something where you can use also the other way of modeling with these planes, this planar modeling. You can have props and load them in there. I just recommend getting into Blender because it's for free, and there's tutorials on YouTube. You can learn it pretty easily. And I also started Blender, and it's pretty cool to use. And yeah, it's intuitive, much more than
Can I ask you some questions about that? Because I downloaded that the other day. So Blender itself is just the operating program. Does it come with models or stuff like that?
I haven't looked up anything for models yet, because for models I used one that I already had purchased a year ago. That's Portrait Studio from Mr. Bragg. Mm-hmm. And she has models there. You have figurines that you can pose and hands that you can pose and set up lightings and colors and things like that. I used this up to now, but now I want to get into sculpting. That's why I started learning Blender. And I know that you can have like easy things like a square, or there are, I think, some hats that you can load in there and post them and things like that. I must ask the chat if there is any models for Blender. For that 3D, of course, there is. I think there should be. I think because Blender pretty much tries to combine all of what is necessary for professionals at the moment.
Yeah.
But
so you can do like models of characters, and you can do buildings.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, you could. I think you could even combine like that 3D and Blender. You must just Google what file types they both can use, and then you, I don't know, put some stuff into Blender, model your own figurine, put it over two dots, having their different lighting. I think you can even combine these, but I hope, I didn't get to that far yet, but I hope Blender alone can be enough. If you, want to use it for reference sculpting and things like that. So, and yeah, I would say no, you don't need 3D programs to improve your art, but it can help you, especially for references and this thinking in 3D, understanding, okay, if I turned its face but didn't change that, I just moved the camera, this is how it looks from the other side. So things like this, if you really use it for analyzing and learning and not just playing around and taking a screenshot and paint over it and that's it, I think it can help you really a lot with art improvement. And especially if you have like complicated scenes, like this one with architecture and a specific perspective, can get quite tricky. Having something a little bit as an underlay is something that concept artists often use the 3D programs for.
Would you hazard a guess of how long it would take to get some kind of proficiency to go through the basic tutorials and be able to work around in that program?
To be honest, the Blender one, I didn't do it like every day or for many hours a day. I just had a little bit of look into that, and within a week, I went through most of the tutorials on Blender Guru, for example, and I can now set up some stuff there. I didn't go into sculpting yet, but I did the where you have this, I don't know what it called. You have the planes and you move the points around and then you model like that. And sculpting is more like you have a brush and it's looking like clay that you model and move around. So it's a little bit different kind of approach. So I think within a month you can get the basics done. You can learn how the program works, what you need for it, and then it depends on you, how much you have motivation, how much time you spend on it. Yeah, so what kind of learner you are.
Those like, you've got to spend 6 months or a year learning, 1,200 settings on this program. I go,
Yeah, I think it's the same as with Photoshop, or other painting programs. You first need to know about layers and brushes and modes and what is all of that. And I think with a month around, you're good to go with Photoshop and know the most basic things and can paint in it. How good you get with using when to use an overlay mode and when to use this and that. And this comes with time. And I think it's the same with Blender and other programs as well.
Oh yeah, you could, I'm sure any of those things like Photoshop, I mean, you can use them for 10 years and still be learning new stuff. But if you were just wanting to set up I'm going to this guy for this sake. If you wanted to just set up a basic scene to check perspective on your scene, hopefully that wouldn't take too long to learn how to do. So the colors were kind of all over the place here, and the principle that I'm applying to the image is the idea that light things, such as this light stone, is going to get quite bright in the lit areas, And then everything in the shadow is going to take on the color of the sky, the secondary light, which is just the ambient kind of skylight, which is cooler over here because the warm light's from that side. And so all that cool light's coming down here and hitting these guys. And there's enough light in this scene that you're not going to be dropping a black into anything other than just like the windows inside of the windows in the buildings and up under some of the awnings and stuff. But everything else is going to have a decent amount of light on it. So we don't want to go too dark with this stuff. We do want to get it dark enough that it is sort of drawing us into the image, though. So if the foreground stuff is more shadowed and then the background stuff is more light, it's going to invite us into the lit area of the scene. I do like the attention to the variety of design in the buildings. It feels like you probably, who is it? Carl probably referenced actual, Italian village or something like that in order to come up with the design of the buildings, and it makes it have a level of believability that is very nice. And this also gives us a chance to really punch up some colors and get a better sense of the light in the scene. Then if we tint most of that to sort of a violet side, then we can get more punch from blue from this tower. I'm not sure what's going on there. If we do have some of that magic effect going on around the tower, I would make that more powerful, so that it's much easier to see from small scale, not be as small as it was on the original. We have like some little ones that are fragmented. So we have a variety of sizes. So we have like small, medium, and large sizes of the magic effect of monster. There.
So may I just say that your overpaints, Clint, always are really, really, really next level. It's like I watch a lot of other art mentors also on YouTube, and they also do overpaints, and I always think, yeah, that's helpful and it's good and it's looking better. But when I see your overpaints, I always have the feeling like I can imagine how it will look when it's finished, and it looks like a really, really awesome piece to put on ArtStation, put it next to the, I don't know, other MTG artists' uploads there. And that's really, really cool. I really enjoy always these overpaints. Even though you're just scribbly with it, I always feel like I couldn't even do it, when I do it properly, half as good as if you're doing it scribbly. So it's really cool to watch you do these. And they're really so impactful. You do really just little changes sometimes with color or a pose or something like that, and it's so much improvement with these steps. And I think this tells that you're really, really one of the higher pros that I know of on YouTube. Just saying.
Friends, if you ever wonder why I keep on the stream, there you go. It's so good for my ego.
No, this is
this
no,
is why we
I'm
keep
not
her
trying
around.
to, how to say that in English, I'm not trying to make you feel good or anything like that. It's just what I always felt, and this is why I came to swatches. This is why I stick with swatches, and this is why I want to give swatches as much of a push as I can from my side. And I think many people feel like that. Guys in chat, what do you say? Come on. Am I right or am I right?
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you find them so useful. They're fun to do. And guys, if you watch this sort of thing and you're like, dude, I like how he approaches that. I really want to be able to do that. Honestly, one of the best ways to do it is start teaching. And you don't have to be professional to teach. Just find somebody that doesn't know as much as you do and teach them something, explain something to them. Or if you don't want to do it to an actual person, just record you teaching it. Or write a little one-page tutorial. And it's going to force you to put it into very applicable terms. And when you do that, then like when I glance at this, I immediately have a list of like 50 different art principles, ideas, techniques, and that sort of thing that you just go like, you just kind of mentally going down this list and going, apply this, apply this, apply this, and it all works itself out because those things always work. And yeah. And if you don't do that, if you don't make the time to really clarify those things in your mind, then again, you're just starting to try to intuit your way to the answer. Anyway, that's probably about it for this one. I mean, it shows the general direction. Hopefully, you know, flipping. Oh, we can do the side-by-side thing. Give me this. Copy that. You would have to go reestablish a lot of the details and stuff. And I would, again, suggest you go look at more references. I would get a reference for the sky and cloud colors. Definitely. In order to get those a bit more realistic and how the tones shift and which exact colors to use. But I'm just not going to take the time to do that during the stream. So, just trying to punch up the colors a little bit, have a bit of the lit shadow dynamic going on, so you're not just using values, because what you see here is like the lit side of the tower is this sort of sandy color, and the shadowed side is just that with black on it. It's just a darker version of that, and we're not shifting the color as we're shifting the value. And the same thing with the top of these, like it goes from orange to dull dark orange. Again, yeah, are we getting on repeat with that? So, you know, I personally, this is kind of where I'd go with it, get more color out of it, try to get more emphasis on the tower rather than kind of split between, and here the attention is like really split between the left side and the right side, and there's almost a division down the middle. It almost feels like two different images. One is where you're facing, focusing more on like the Basilica Tower thing, and the other one is where the background tower. Whereas the repaint puts your attention a lot more on that center tower. Okay, let's take a look at maybe doing some other stuff for a little bit. And we'll get back to paint overs because they're just fun and we can chat while we're doing them. All right. You're still there, right, Anna?
Yes, of course. I'm still here.
Okay. Anna gave me this image a while back as being one that she really liked. So we're going to open that up and take a look at it.
Yes. Okay.
So,
you mean Martina Fashkova?
Why do you love this one?
Yeah. This is an artist that I found. Oh, I think I found her via Instagram, maybe. So she is an art student. She also just received many, how to say, well, not prizes, but a lot of more of attention by, companies and things like this, and also for people who make magazines. And she was also on magazines top cover, and now she also got released in the what was it called, Art Fundamentals. There's a new book that is called Art Fundamentals, and she also got a chapter there. So her name is Martina Fashkova, I think it's called. It's said. And I like about her art that she is getting more into that classical masters vibe with her values, with her color, with her lighting. She has a dramatic lighting in her pieces a lot, and she is very close to realism also with her pieces. I like her use of values a lot. She has great control of them. I love how she paints hands. This is also very close to the classic masters, I think, with these very expressive, beautiful, elegant hands that she has there, the colors on the hands, the detail that she uses there. I think they're really, really outstanding with each piece. And I never feel that her paintings are boring, but she uses not so much different fancy color. She's very, really not desaturated, but not so saturated as many of the more other modern digital artists are. And I just like that. She's like a classical master to me, and that is what I admire much about her art. Yeah. So, and this is a personal piece, and yeah, you can find her. I will just put maybe the name then later when I stop talking. Put her name in chat. You can find her on ArtStation and also on Instagram. And somebody's asking about the extra hands. I think this was just for she was like enjoying painting the hands and decided to put more. It's a fantasy piece, so there is, I think, no deeper meaning behind that. But yeah, she also has a progress how she paints on her ArtStation. Oh, you also show it on stream, I see. Yeah, there you can see and look how she approaches her paintings, and she's very clean worker. She's like having the sketch, and then she just goes in a straight line to a finished piece. For me, when I do such a clip with her process steps, everything is moving, getting different, removed, repainted.
Well, I would reckon that she probably has a variety of studies that she did before we even see what we see here.
Yeah, so she's a really amazing. That's what I like a lot about this piece. Yeah, it's also the atmosphere. It's such a calm and gentle. Yeah, can you say naturesque? I don't know, that natural feeling I get there. It's this is what I like. Soft lighting. She feels really, even though her colors are super warm, she feels very warm still compared to her surroundings. So her subtlety in colors also works really well here. Yeah.
This is a really good example of, especially looking at this animated version of the steps, of how to use kind of photo bashing into your illustrative pieces, not just for concept art, but for your illustration. So she throws the image of those trees in the background, but she doesn't just leave them there that way. And she throws the photo of like the snow branches behind her, but she doesn't just leave them. She augments them and she paints them into the scene so that they have a consistent level of detail, they have consistent colors, and that's really, really well done. And then somebody mentioned like beautiful folds. Yeah, you think she didn't take the time to go look at something that had folds like that? Either she knows folds really well, or she referenced some folds. And then if you look at the details of the image, she didn't go crazy with a lot of stuff that people would normally go crazy on. The fur. When you zoom in on the fur and it's just a pattern of strokes. She didn't even really paint hair. She didn't paint clumps of hair. She just did some strokes. And even the hands, they're not overly detailed. She put, good gradients of kind of warm to cool. And that's nice. And she didn't go crazy on the background trees with detail. She actually toned down a lot of stuff from the photograph. So, really, really nice piece there. I was going to look at a couple of pieces and I was trying to pick out a couple of pieces that I've enjoyed. And I mean, one of the ones here is I included it as an inspiration on the current art challenge, which is a Johnny Steadfast by Chris Ron. And I keep referencing this image because I think it just so well examples a lot of principles that you don't necessarily need to have a character in this super unique pose, in this where there's just so much action and bomb blast of colors in order to create a very engaging image. And so he's in this very simple pose, really. He's just kind of standing there at the ready with his arms and knees kind of bent a little bit. But you don't really need more than that. It's so well executed that he's got the motion of the fabrics blowing. He's got the really intentional lighting across the top of it. He's got the controlled colors. He has the foreground in shadow, but it's not all lost to black. He's got the background getting lighter, but it's not lost to white. You feel like he's interacting with his environment and he's not just cut out. And this is the sort of thing that you do studies in order to get something like this. Where you've got to do some color studies, figure out how you're going to balance this. You do value studies to make sure it's going to hold up that way. You do some lighting studies, figure out exactly how much light that lower portion of the body is going to get. How brilliant, how intense is that light going to be? Is it going to blow out the whites, or is it going to remain some color there? So this one just keeps reminding me it's not always how big and powerful you can get with the action in the scene. Sometimes it's just sticking to the core things that works. Good values, good color, intentional lighting, and the ultimate rendering of the scene can make something really, really work well. And that's why I included it in the challenge images, because we don't necessarily need him flying, our character in the challenge, Asherin. We don't need him like flying at the camera while he's summoning some sort of magic beast around him and there's like fireball. No, you can just do a dude standing there with his fabrics, flowing in the breeze, and there's just a really interesting lighting falling across him. And you've got a cool set of shapes of the mountains and the fog in the background. And that's sufficient.
Yeah, it's also interesting how well we understand the background, even though he didn't put so much detail there. So it doesn't look like rushed or just left out. It's just very controlled brush strokes, uses of edges and values and colors. And we understand everything. We see that there is light hitting the mountains, but there is more shadow and fog and the other shadows before that. So this is something that, for example, I really need to still practice, because I would go in there and paint every little rock that is there in the background and put some texture on that, and then maybe take it out a little bit more again and go back and forth. But it can be very simple, but then on the other hand, still very impactful. Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes it's not what you put in, but what you leave out. Of course, if you're not familiar with Brahms' Red Wing image, that has been a long-term inspiration to me as well. A lot of the same stuff going on here with this image. Controlled values, intentional lighting. But what he does here is he adds more of a graphical element. Or, yes, he's rendering things to be 3D. He's very mindful of the 3D volumes of what he's doing, but he's also arranging the 3D volumes in a way that it also makes very interesting 2D shapes. And so she's positioned in such a way that we get both good 3D volumes and 2D graphical shapes that those ultimately make. And that is a sign of some real skill and some real intentional planning. So you have like the very simple curvature of the shape here on this side, and then you have the very pointy, broken shapes all going off the left side. Coincidence? Not at all. He thought about that. He knew what he was doing. And balancing those two out like that. And again, looking at the lighting, where only the upper half of the character is getting the light and the bottom half's going down into the shadow. Anna, are you familiar with this piece? You've probably seen this at some point, right?
I think I know the artist, but this piece, I can't recall having seen it before. Maybe something similar. Something hits me, something reminds me of something in this piece, but maybe I didn't see that one exactly. But I really like her skin in this one. It's looking so soft, and I think especially with skin and the human body, it's really hard to keep the values at bay and not get too dark with the shadow pieces, shadow parts, but also not staying too light and have everything look flat. So I think he managed this very well and has really nice shadow shapes, really soft shapes and good edge control in this one. I really like that about this piece.
Yeah, and looking at those colors, another example of more isn't necessarily better. This one works on basically a discordant color scheme. Most of it is very desaturated, working in slightly bluish grays. It's just warm and cool gray tones with that pop of the red feathers. That's the name Red Wing. And that's the, most powerful color in the image. And it works really well because of that. Wrong piece. This is another one you could reference for the, particularly for the Planeswalker image. Not so much probably for the Warcraft. They have a different stylization to their images and they're more colorful.
Yeah, that's also the thing I would add. Maybe if you are going for the Warcraft one for the challenge, really try to get into that style, this Blizzard style of painting. It could be a good training for finding out how different styles work, what makes them special. So just as a little side hint, or how to say that, a little tip.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to do some studies. Just get some official D&D artwork and just, I would say, copy it, just redraw it, so you kind of get in your head the sort of shapes that they're using. And they use very exaggerated shapes. Shoulder, armor, pauldrons are quite large, and the shapes are... the shapes are just exaggerated. Like the ears are extra long and pointy, and the eyebrows are long and pointy. And when you see armor pieces that overlap each other, it's not these little bitty thin overlappings. No, it's these massive plates on top of each other with very distinct silhouette changes when you get to that sort of thing. Things that are thin are very thin. Things that are heavy feel very heavy. And so you just want to get all those things and sort of ratcheted up out of realism a little bit and take it right into that fantasy realm where you're going, I doubt that you could really wear armor that heavy, but sure, okay. Or there's no way you're carrying a blade that heavy. That blade probably weighs 60 pounds. But, sure, maybe he could do it. Oh man, this is another one I don't know how to say that name, but I've been very inspired by this guy's work for a long time, and I just wanted to pick an image from his gallery to look at. So this dragon one is, to me, it's just next level. There's so many beautiful things going on here. Both from just a common observer looking at the scene, it feels like it has a lot of energy, it throws you right into the action. And then on a more professional level, with a critical eye looking at it, and looking at all of the really, really well controlled value changes. We're looking, I'm actually going to pull it up in Photoshop so that I can highlight some of this stuff. Man, this is just chock full of incredible things. You're looking at like the values of making sure that all of this is staying towards the dark side and not playing up any of the lights so that it can stand out the silhouette against this. It's choosing to let there be enough light on that side of the body, on the shadow side of the body, so that it stands out. It's using the light and dark patterns around the teeth so that the teeth stand out. It's using the light from the eye to illuminate the area around the eye. And then using the atmospherics and using the cornering effect. I've talked about that before, right? Where you don't necessarily have to highlight everything. You don't have to put a tone around everything. Sometimes what you want to do is just bring a little light into the corners of spots so that they show up, and using the atmospherics in order to create this sort of depth map so it feels like the body is going and receding into the distance. Was this one, have you seen this one before?
No, this is the first time. I also don't know whether I've seen anything of that artist. There are many Chinese artists that have like this super detailed style, like he has, especially around the focal point, where really a lot is going on in the pieces. So sometimes I really ask myself, how many $100 have they spent painting these pieces? It's wow. What I really like about his piece, is when you, for example, look at the horns that are on the sides, how he decided to put something behind it to make them stand out. Like on the one side, it's like really bright part of the wing. On the other side, it's he decided to turn down the details on his body and make it a little bit brighter so that it don't mixes with each other, that you really, even if you zoom out a lot, you can still make out the head and its horns and things like this. And also this value, I'm always amazed by value control. So as you mentioned, with the receding body, with the values getting brighter, this is also his forearms are really dark and standing out in front of his body, because this body behind that is already brighter, but the body again is standing out because the background behind it is even brighter. So he really makes everything super readable, just by value and edge control. I think this is a really good thing to notice from this artist here.
Well, my chat has frozen. Can you confirm that we're actually still streaming?
Yeah, I think everything is all right. So I see the chat. Can you maybe move something? Then I see whether it's moving then there too. I think.
I mean, there's like a 10-second lag, but I'm trying to reload the page to see if it'll catch up. At some point, it lost connection to the chat, and I don't know if it was YouTube or just the chat.
Chat is going, and they say also it's fine. Stream is all good. Maybe it's just your browser or something that lost connection.
Oh, so I bet it's getting hot. Let me turn a fan on the computer to cool it off a little bit.
We will wait.
Yeah, I normally have the windows open. That creates a little cross breeze, but I closed them.
Yeah.
Cut the sound
Don't have them. Yeah. So there was one question in chat for the Warcraft challenge. Does the elf herself have to be super stylized, or is it just the armor that should be stylized?
Well, the Warcraft characters are normally stylized from, say, normal humans. But we'd want to stay with that style. We don't necessarily need to change it from the standard Warcraft, but we can zoom up. So kind of what I mean is, like, the female elves are you know, ideal physique to begin with. They're super athletic and lithe and all that. But so like the eyebrows, depending on the kind of elf, I think they all, normal elf and night elf and blood elf and whatever, they all have those really long eyebrows. So we want to keep that style, and the length of the ears actually goes beyond the top of the head. We want to keep that as well, and just the shapes are very clean shapes in the eyes and ideal shapes. So that's all we want to do is keeping those sort of exaggerated aspects that are known of Warcraft.
Yeah. So we have some questions also in the Facebook group where I asked for questions. If you want to, we can also tackle some of them.
Sure. What do you see out there?
So one was about, I already told you a little bit earlier, where to find commissions when you're first starting out. And I get commissions on Facebook occasionally through groups, but I'm looking for a bigger pool, if that makes sense, was the post. From Michaela.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say the first thing, of course, is we're assuming that you have put in time to have necessary skill level, right? Because you can look a lot. If you don't have the skills, it doesn't really matter how long you look. And it doesn't matter how much you apply yourself. You don't have the skills for the job. But let's say that you do. And then what do you do at that point? Well, there's a lot of options. I talked about that. Talked about this with a fellow on the console earlier this week. So let's list a couple. One is contact. Contact companies. I'm always a little surprised about how many people say that they're not getting commissions who are not trying to go look for commissions. They're not contacting companies, but yet they're amazed that they're not getting commissions. Go contact them. The ones I looked up the other day was Paizo. They make games such as Pathfinder and Starfinder. And they, you go to their page and you go down to like contact us or careers, something like that. You click on it. There's an email address right there for artists to send them their portfolios and to contact them about work. Do that. You can go to like Fantasy Flight Games. They have the same sort of email address. They have their own games. And go send them an email. And my Photoshop is locking up. There we go. And so do that. Go look at a list of game companies that make board games. I'm gonna think like Avalon Hill. Is that one? I think that's one. I think they make a bunch of board games. I would just Google it, right? And see which companies make board games. And then go see what their email address is. Go contact them. And that could be part of your, basically your homework. And that's something every day you're going to go send your portfolio to a certain number of companies. You're going to go find some companies to send your stuff to. Other ones are art. There's different terms used by different companies, so I'm going to give you a couple of terms here. It could be a studio or agency or house. I've heard it, all of these. Essentially, it is a company that has a roster of artists. And so when there's a big game coming out, let's say that they're going to make a new Call of Duty, and they need to get 1,000 pieces of concept art made. That company does not want to have to manage 1,000 different artists. And so they go to an art studio or agency sort of thing, and they say, okay, well, we've got 250 images that we need made. These are the breakdowns of kind of what it needs to be. Handle it. then that agency then goes to their roster of artists and sends out commissions to their artist on their list. Of course, they get a fee for that because they're essentially handling the negotiation and finding the job for you. Then they get a cut of the commission. But if you don't like doing that sort of thing, if that's really not something you enjoy or particularly motivated to do, then it might be well worth your time in order to try to get on with such a company so that they will literally go find the work for you and just bring it to you for a cut. Anna, have you ever looked into doing that sort of thing, or have you ever been approached by that sort of arrangement?
Yes, so for my first commission from a company, they found me on Twitch. I was streaming there, and the person who owned that company was going through Twitch, and he liked the piece that I was painting, and he was reaching out to me. So, hey, I'm still looking for artists. So this is how I've got my first job, and his art director, so to speak, so my mentor there, was also art directing for a different company. And after I finished that job, he said like, hey, we are also still looking for artists. Do you want to join us there? And I worked for them for 1.5 years. It's Haunted Games from Canada. They do a magic a card game. So I was painting also for such fantasy cards. And I at the moment I didn't have much time because it was really something that I had to paint like every day for them, and it was a little bit too much for me to handle because I also have like a different job. So, but this is how it also can be, like, do good social media. Be out there. Some people find also jobs via Instagram and so on. The only tricky thing about that is if you just put it out there on social media like Instagram, ArtStation and so on, there is so much going on that people might not notice you. So I think I was just lucky that day because there were not many other people streaming at that moment. So I think it's a much better approach to go and contact companies. Look maybe for new startups who are like collecting money for so that their games get published. Reach out to little companies. Maybe this is a bit better than like going for Blizzard directly or for Wizards of the Coast or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, when you choose, if you want to look into this sort of thing with sort of art agency, where you're getting an art agent in a similar way that a actor will get an agent. Well, that agent is then out there looking at scripts, they're looking at films getting made, and trying to find a place in a project that their actor might be good with. But these, of course, range. I'm sure there's good ones, and I'm sure there's cruddy ones. And I'm sure some of the art directors at some places are just absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sure some of them don't have a clue what they're doing. So, do some research. And you might want to talk to some of the other artists, message them, send them an email that are with that company and say, hey, I was approached by them. I was looking at joining them. Can you give me some feedback? Are they good to work with? Is this a good arrangement? Also look for non-exclusivity. Unless they're super good, I would say that you don't want to do an exclusivity with them, meaning that you could only do work through them. You could not take work from any other companies or any other clients. I don't think that would be a good arrangement because you're just literally waiting on them for your livelihood. Other things you could do is events. Of course, conventions right now are up in the air because of the whole COVID thing. But at some point, things are going to calm down in that area, and people are going to start putting conventions back on. And conventions can be good places to talk to art directors and schedule a time to go have them look at your work. If they like it, they might try to give you a business card and get you into their company. So that's a good one. Other places to get work is job boards. There are a variety of job boards. on sites for artists. And like ArtStation has one. I mean, I get an email all the time from ArtStation listing different positions that companies are looking for artists. And it's, Naughty Dog Entertainment is looking for a new environment concept artist. Most of these are in studio positions, which require you moving. Some of them might not be. But there are job boards, and I would search around because they do change. Imagine Effects, I believe, actually has a job board as well on their site, so I'll check that one out too. And I want to say business sites. I'm not sure a better way to say that, but it would be like putting a profile up on things like Freelancer. I do not have one up on Freelancer, but I was speaking to someone recently who said that they, for years, have received a good number of commissions from Freelancer.com. And that's just where somebody needs some work and they go out and they're literally looking for a freelance artist or a freelance web designer or freelance marketers, that sort of thing. And yeah, if you aren't out there, that might be something you look at. Elance is very much the same way. There's like Fiverr, but you're probably not going to get as much money, but that might open some roads for you. Yeah. There's lots of ways to go try to find some work. And there's many more that you can try as well. I was trying to think what else on that is. You can think about it sort of in terms of fishing. That's one of the analogies that I've heard, which is if you go fishing and you really need to catch a fish, don't just have one line in the water. If you can manage to put 10 lines in the water, your likelihood of catching a fish is 10 times better. So you go, well, I sent an email to Paizo and I didn't get hired, so I don't think I can make it in the industry. Okay, but did you also send one to Fantasy Flight and Avalon Hill? And did you contact 10 different art agencies? And did you schedule to go to a convention and talk to an art director? And did you look at the job boards? Because if you do all of that, then you're probably making more effort than like 99% of artists. No.
Yeah, I think that answered the question pretty well. Shall we have the next one? What do you think?
Go for it. I might open up another paint over and do it while we're
that's cool.
doing that.
That's cool. Then do that first, and maybe you talk first about your impressions on that one, and then I go with the next question. That we don't interfere too much.
I need to pick a number. Write me a new number. Okay, Esri, didn't we already look at this image at some point? Didn't we look at this during a challenge? Did I not already do a paint over of this image? This seems very familiar. Of the Legend of Ganon challenge. Okay, well, we will just have another go. Maybe I'm wrong.
So, I think I have not seen it yet. So it should be an older one, maybe? I'm not sure. But, don't know.
So here we have Ganon as kind of like the dark magic lord from the Legend of Zelda series. And this is another one where I'm thinking, let's go and make use of this light source that you have in this scene. and let it be illuminating things and bringing out more volume in the character. A lot of the character is lost to kind of flatness of shadow, so I want to bring that out. A lot of the metal gold is, I know that it's trying to be gold, but it's not feeling real metallic. So that would be something else I'd want to see changed. And maybe adjusting the background, because at least over here, a lot of these background tones, why is that not showing? Oh, it's set to color at a low opacity. Okay. A lot of the tones over here between him and the background are very similar, so I'd want to find a way to separate that. Either by changing the value and the lighting in the background, or by adding maybe a secondary light that is going to hit along the edge of him to bring that out. It's kind of like a fill light that you would use in cinematography. Yeah, so what did you find question arise?
Yeah, so this one is by Dan. He wrote, "My favorite thing to draw is big epic fight scenes, but those take a long time to finish. Would you recommend spending time making simpler images to fill out a portfolio, or stick to what I love and just be patient?"
I would say having a specialty is not a bad thing. And if you are most passionate about big fight scenes, cool, because most people aren't. Most people are very intimidated by that, and that's something that is lacking in their portfolio. So, most of your gallery could be that, perhaps 60, 70%. But we do need a set of images that show other things as well. And it just makes you more marketable as an artist. It makes you more desirable to a client because you're not as pigeonholed. You're more versatile than just one particular subject. Usually I see that with people who do like attractive lady portraits. And like nearly everything in the entire gallery is just attractive lady portraits. Like, well, that's fine, but a lot of the commissions you're going to get are things other than that. So it would be worth your time to, break out from there. So for you, in this situation, do some standalone characters, do some environments as well, and that would be nice. But yeah, you can present yourself as having a specialty in that group. But if you do that, also make sure that you're doing it really well, because if you're going to specialize, you better be better at that than most other artists. Otherwise, it's not really worth specializing in it. So composition, if you're trying to get better at that, composition is going to be a major thing to study. And you want to be really good at that. Dynamic poses, also a very important factor. And values. So like value scheme, dynamic poses, and composition are probably the ones that you want to study in the most. Let me mull over that for a second. What's your thoughts on that, Anna?
Yeah, so I can understand a bit, but there are so many people always thinking only about portfolio, how to make my portfolio. But I think having a portfolio or preparing your portfolio is a step that you take much later in your art development. So I don't know how far Dan is at the moment. I haven't checked his art yet, so he might be already at proficient level. I don't know. But if you then now feel like, I'm still learning like fundamentals and stuff, like working on values and how to do anatomy right and things like that, then I would not so much think about my portfolio and how to make my portfolio look good. I would try to stick much with how to learn and improve my fundamentals and don't care about your portfolio. So I'd say if you are looking for a specific company, you're already at that level that you say, okay, I could work for maybe Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, then make your portfolio filled with pieces that would fit the company, that show value of your skills, and spend your time on these, because you need to show the best you can do. Of course, you need then to spend a lot of time. But if you're not at that level yet, I'd rather have a lot of training and studies instead, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion on that.
No, Anna, you're right that as much as it can be good to be filling out a portfolio and be using that as a motivation, that is only after you have put in years of time to perfect the skills necessary to warrant that. And until then, man, just enjoy it. Have fun learning. Have fun creating cool stuff. And then the more that you do, the more you'll have a better idea of what you actually want to do in a professional field, right? And you don't have to commit real quick. Yeah, I'm just thinking we're losing too much over there, and there's another light source. It's that, or we have to invent a brighter background, and I just feel, and that could work too. This is one of those cases where you could really do either, and it would work. And so I could brighten the background and just use more of a silhouette approach to it, and that would work okay. But we do end up losing so much of the character and the design and the forms in the shadow that I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, I'd be split between what I do. I just think for this sort of image, it might be better to have a bit more color.
Yeah, definitely. Also makes him stand out much more. It's more going into the Ajani direction of the piece we had earlier. The top is dark in front of light value, and the lower part was a dark in front of the opposite. My brain doesn't work anymore. So light, dark, dark, light, this direction. So you could work with this one here as well, because you already have that fog, and you could have that that dynamic going on. So there are some voices in chat and also on Facebook, Clint. People don't like having that music in the background pretty much, as it seems, because it's on the one hand a bit loud, and it's hard to follow what we are talking about. And there are some voices, if it's possible, to maybe turn it off.
Oh, yeah, so, I turned it off like a long time ago.
Yeah, okay, it's just, I just read a comment about that, and I don't have the stream audio on my headphones.
Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't sure. So the next question, shall I tackle it?
Sure.
Yeah, the next one is, when learning to draw, would you lean in favor of speed, volume of work, or accuracy, precision per piece? In other words, would it be better to draw a thing 100 times faster but with 50 to 70% accuracy, or 20 to 30 times in the same time frame but with 90 to 95% accuracy?
First thing you want to do is focus on accuracy. Because speed will always come. Speed will always improve. You'll just learn how to optimize what you're doing. You'll learn what is more critical to establish. And accuracy, not as much. Unless you intentionally are seeking accuracy, you're not going to just gradually become more and more accurate unless you're putting intentional effort into that. And so you want to focus on accuracy to begin with. Then when you're hitting that enough and consistently, and you're not having to put a lot of effort into tackling that accuracy, then I would do some speed practices in order to develop faster rendering techniques and start paying attention to some more of those things. And different processes that might be able to speed up your painting. The face is really fuzzy at this resolution. I'm not sure how much to do there. But he's basically kind of got a split lighting where there's like kind of a purple light there and the cool light on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the speed thing, there are some things like speed studies. These are good for when you, for example, want to improve your how to make things simplify things.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you just have like 5 minutes to paint a gesture, or you just have 5 minutes to paint a landscape. So you must make decisions on how to simplify things, group things together, and still make it readable, understandable, recognizable if you want similarity to it and stuff like that. So this is where you go for speed. You set up a timer and you try to do your study within that amount of time. And it can really teach you a lot. So I have a friend, she's a Twitch streamer, and her name is Madeline Inc. You can find her also on Instagram. And she also started that like half a year ago with landscape painting. She put out a photograph of a landscape, took like, I don't know, it depended on how detailed she wanted to get, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. She does it with portraits too. And she improved so much and got really a feel for how to simplify a plant by not painting each of the leaves but still making look like that plant and so on. So this is where you go for speed, but otherwise I would also say, as Clint said, go for accuracy, especially if you're still studying and trying to learn and understand things. So take a lot of time for these analyses and training.
Yeah, speed training is not bad, and it definitely do it, but you don't want to necessarily put that over the importance of making sure that you can draw it accurately to begin with. And also, yeah, shout out to Maddie, great streamer out there on Twitch. And she's one that is worth following and having on during the day. Very, very positive, very supportive streamer. Does a lot of work with her community out there. And give a shout out to Maddie and go check out her channel.
Yeah. Last question from Facebook, but we kind of partly answered it already. Which ones are your favorite artists?
Oh, yeah, I have so many, and
Yeah.
they rotate depending on kind of where I am with my career and what sort of work I'm working on. Yeah, it depends the field, because I go reference different people depending on what I'm working on. So, if it's composition, I might be one person. If it's material dependent, it's somebody else. If it's a big, complicated battle scene, like we're kind of talking about, then yeah, that's going to be somebody else as well. And everybody has their sort of strong strengths and weaknesses, and so you want to go look at somebody who has strengths in that area where you have weaknesses. Now, overall, just like all of this background is kind of too dark on a lot of it. We're losing some of this. No, go on. I was just kind of talking to myself.
There's always many people who are joining us newly, and they would like to know how to get into the position to get such an overpaint or help by you directly as a person. So maybe we should talk through all the possibilities there are, because there are a bunch.
Yeah, there's a variety of options there. This is sort of a special case, just a special stream. And so I had a shout out post in my emails and on the Facebook group for entries. and I was collecting images for this. So in the future, if I'm going to do another, stream, if we reach, say, 7,500 members, then we'll probably do another stream. And keep an eye on the Facebook group, because I will likely put out another link to upload stuff. I also do mentorships. Anna mentioned that earlier. So we can have a one-on-one video chat. It is something that you need to pay for and schedule. It is a full hour of my time away from all my other projects. And you can go out to art-mentor.com and schedule that. And we can cover whatever we need to address where you are with your art. Whether you're fairly new and just starting out and you just wanted to have some feedback on, where would be the best place to start my education, what do I need to focus on based on my work that you see, then we can talk about that. We can get a paint over that way. When I get Patreon more active again, so because it's got really slowed down with the materials course, but the $40 patrons out on the Patreon will get feedback. You can submit in an image, sort of like this. You can submit in an image, and I will record a video for you where I usually do some sort of little paint over to it, and then I talk through what needs to be done with the image. The other option is the art challenges, and that's probably the easiest way and the most reliable way to get one at the, I would say, the lowest rate. You get not as much time as the others, but and those are going to go on every 4 weeks, once a month. We're doing an art challenge, and at this point we have 2 groups going, which means it's 24 slots, and you can buy a ticket and you can get feedback in there. Am I missing something? I think that's most of the options at this point.
Yeah, that's the options we have at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, whenever the courses get released, then I'll be doing classes, workshop style, where you'd be getting feedback, where you're submitting in your homework from the course, and we'd be reviewing those. Yeah. Yeah, this is sort of direction I would be likely to take this image. It's trying to give the character a little more pop out from the background, a bit more color. But I don't think we necessarily need to expand the color out very much. I'd keep it right in this blue sort of blue, purple, violet sort of range. And letting him have quite a bit of shadow. I feel like this character is one that you can actually let a decent amount get pretty dark, where you're split lighting him. So you have the light, and then you have the light there, and then the shadow straight down the middle. And it's sort of a dramatic light that you don't want to use in most circumstances, because it has a vibe of duplicity. And it's sort of ingrained that feeling with that light. But that works for him, because he's a very duplicitous sort of character. So maybe we'll pause there. And you can see sort of back and forth here. A note on the gold is that even gold, as yellow orangey as it is, if you put it under a starkly blue light, it's not going to have that color anymore, because that light source does not carry that wavelength of color. It cannot produce that color. And so it becomes far, far adjusted and tinted over to the light source color. In which case you're looking more at how it highlights the high value range. So you notice, like on the cloth here, the cloth never highlights to the same brilliance that the gold does. The gold is shiny, so it has a very wide value range. The cloth is dull, so it has a very narrow value range comparatively.
Yeah, the only thing I'm a little bit unsure about is his cape. I don't like the shape. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's working well with the rest of the piece. I would maybe have it if you have to put a cape like that more. I don't know, it lower in the painting or different shape, or I don't know. I change it. I don't like that at all. But the rest looks cool.
Yeah, it sort of indicates a lot of breeze that we're not really seeing. Um, and I don't know if you want to do like a top bottom, idea with the cape that the top part is maybe shadowed, but the bottom part is lit. You can do that sort of thing. And that could be cool if you did it right. But this is also one of those where I would go look up a cape blowing in the wind and check out those fold patterns and see how that works. Otherwise, I would take it off. If you couldn't do it well, I would just take it out because it's not
Yeah.
crucial. Yeah.
So somebody asks about the values in this piece. The magic he's doing is super bright and stealing a lot of the attention. Whether this not just steals the attention, but also throws off the values is the question. And I think this piece is about the magic more than about the character.
Mm-hmm.
No? Like it's about the action of that magic. If it was more about the character, would you change the brightness of the magic then, Clint? What would you
I
do there?
just started reworking. I hadn't really worked the magic. You're not going to get around the fact that he's holding a light source, so it is going to be brighter than everything else. Instead, what you'd want to do is maybe just tone it down or simplify it a little bit, where most of it is just a bright saturation of color. Let me go up to a normal layer. Yeah. And then it has some elements of white that arc out of it that become these sort of things. So most of it isn't necessarily white. It's just the core of it that's white. But yeah, I am with you. It's not just about the character, it's the character displaying his power. So it has a little bit of a shift from just being a character image to the character and this other thing.
Otherwise, I would make it much more smaller also, the magic, like just a little flame or something like that. So when you want to show off the concept of the character, you must see everything that is there. You must see the shapes and the clothing and the weapon correctly. So I would make it really small, the magic, just to show, oh, by the way, he's also able to do magic, but not make it as prominent as in this one. That's why I had the impression it's also about the action itself.
Yeah, and you could take out, and this is something that I really would consider, is taking out the long tendrils of magic and mainly having it just the orb. Because the tendrils start covering up a lot of the character design and it sort of complicates a lot of this. And it's hard to balance some of the values because you've got this really high value that's sort of cutting through everything else. And so I might just make those like shorter and they're more localized right around the magic than going across the whole scene. And yeah, that's probably a better call there. And then you could have just some just magic sort of kind of coming up and down from it and just arcing right around it, but closer.
Yeah. Somebody asked for the Planeswalker challenge, can we have the monk having a weapon or some stuff?
No, he's a hand-to-hand. So maybe he's holding, you might be able to have him holding just like a natural staff. Now, usually with like magic, I'm just trying to think of like if it was a legit mission, they really don't want you showing them holding anything other than what you'd be able to use in game. If you want him to do some sort of like kata, where he's practicing moves or is in a meditative pose or something like that, that could be acceptable. Also, that's actually a reminder. If you haven't been familiar with this site, Figurosity is one worth taking a look at. And they have a number of different models. This isn't it's not a sponsor or anything, but it's a site that I've used before. And they have a variety of models. I picked Lee here because he's the closest to what we have in the to Asherin in the challenge. And so you get like the model like this, and you can load up the model, and then you can turn it around. And this is pretty close to what we need from the challenge. We just need a basic sort of interesting standing pose. And, he wouldn't have the staff, but you could take the staff out and then make, his arm glowing. And you can just turn it around and find a level that you want. Or you could do like if you could do it correctly and make it look interesting, you could do like a top-down view. And again, do like 360. And there's other versions of these. If you sign up, if you pay for their service, which is not very expensive, you can get like just the muscle version of the body instead of the full skin clothes thing. And so you could turn around your model like this. And for you guys that aren't wanting to, go photograph your own model, this right here, good option. Just use something like this and, capture it, screen capture it, and sketch it based on that. And that's going to answer a lot of your pose questions and accuracy of the models. The models are, most of them, pretty anatomically correct.
Yeah. So the Mox should be more fighting. He's a magic fighter, or with his arm that is doing magic, or?
No, he's not really like. He has a magic arm, but he's not necessarily like Chandra. The idea is that he augments his attacks and his speed and his damage and stuff with magic, but he's not necessarily a spellcaster.
So he fights like karate or something like that with his hand and feet. He's a Lee Sin, so to speak, the ethereal.
Yeah, a lot more like a Lee Sin character from League.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you do come out here and you're looking for ideas, you can choose between models and say, oh, actually, maybe Asado, has some cool poses. Then you can go in here and you can look at Asado's set, and you can go through and find one, and maybe he has one that has a gun pose that actually is pretty close, but you just take the gun out, obviously. And then, and they have 3 different levels. You can't change the height, but they have the low view, the straight-on view, and then the top view. The resources, full resources. All right, I'm gonna have a quick bathroom break, and I'll be right back.
So, chat, we are all alone now. What shall we do? How can we mess with Clint's channel? If you have still any questions, you feel free to post them in the comments. And if you haven't yet joined the Swatches Art group on Facebook, you can find it when you put in your URL on top. You just put swatches.group and it will lead you directly to our Facebook group. And there you can also find the link for the Discord channel that we reopened. You can post your art there, get critiques there as well. And join our new weekly challenge that we also will start probably this Friday. I'm planning on doing that this Friday. I hope I can run my errands tomorrow. And if I finish that, I'll be good to go and start there. Do I still stream on Twitch?
I
Not
know
at the
that
moment, Richie.
everybody was probably missing her, so I thought she would have to come have an appearance
Oh,
for the special stream.
what a
Here's
special
Fuzzy,
day for us.
and she
Hello.
always makes me look bad because she looks so sad.
Oh,
There she is.
hello, kitty.
She's been sleepy. She just woke up, so she's a little groggy, but
Little grumpy face. Yeah. So, yeah, Richie, I don't stream on Twitch at the moment. Just with Clint on YouTube. So my favorite subject to paint or illustrate, anything with fantasy. I'm a fantasy noob. I'm a nerdy person. So I like painting girls. I'm not good with guys. That's another challenge for me, Clint. Oh, the monk is male. I don't paint males. This will be new
don't
for
paint
me.
males.
No. Did you see ever me painting a male? No, I think not. Oh, the Vikings challenge. There was one Viking laying on the ground. He was male. But beside that, I'm only going for girls usually.
We will try not to read too much into that.
What? There's nothing to read. I just think it's much better to paint a beautiful female, curvy person instead of a guy.
Yeah, we're
Guys
gonna
are-
just do like ugly barbarian masculine dudes for the rest of the year. And there's just no way you're gonna be able to avoid having to do them.
Oh no. The giant challenge was already pretty challenging for me. It wasn't my type of thing what I would usually paint. I can draw curvy man. Yeah, curvy man. Thick
Curvy
man.
men.
Some thick guys. Uh, quick do a bunch of unauthorized course giveaways. No, Jonathan. I can't do that. Clint is back already.
Do unauthorized what?
Course giveaways while you are on in the bathroom.
Yeah, that would go over real well.
But I just asked guys, how can we mess with your channel while you're gone? People are very very nice. Didn't suggest anything bad. Yeah. I have a question about the materials course. If you want to get it through Patreon, can we subscribe on the same month it's released, or do we need to already be subscribed before it's out?
Oh, okay, yeah, let me explain that a little bit. The short answer is no, that's not an option. Because I already put out materials through Patreon last year, but it was a really small version of what I'm working on. It only had a couple of lessons in it. And, well, actually, it was just one video where I covered a couple of the principles. And that's when I decided, I'm going to rework this because I think this could be a cool course. And at this point, no, the course is going to be definitely the most expensive thing in the store. And it's going to be a full, proper course. And I would not be charging enough through Patreon because Patreon just has the levels of 10, 20, and 40. And that wouldn't be sufficient to cover the course. So it will just be for purchase through the store. Yeah, at this point, that's the plan.
Yep, I think that's all the questions I have here.
Okay.
I think if I missed any question, chat, feel free to repost. But I think I scrolled through them. Should be all of them.
Yeah, and I was thinking we're probably getting near the end of the stream.
Yeah.
Because we're running up to 3 hours, which is pretty good for a stream. Let's see. Anything else we need extra we go over? I mean, there's always more stuff you can paint over, more stuff to talk about. But No, I just want to say again. Oh, actually, I did have this image from Tyler that I saw on the group that I wanted to mention, guys. So if you're working like on Asheron, these are Tyler Vale's concepts for Asheron. And he's got a really good approach here, which is he's handling the character design before he's starting his full illustration. And that is part of what this is to design and illustrate the character. So don't skip one or the other. And it can be a lot better to address the major design choices before you have to start putting it into your 3D pose and think about it realistically. So that is a really good choice. I do recommend that you do that. Also, he's done multiple versions. He didn't do one version and just commit to it. He's doing multiple versions. Also a good choice. The next thing he did, he got some feedback. Again, good choice. So same sort of thing. If you're working on Asheron, do multiple copies. He did basically the same pose on each one of these. That's fine when you're doing a basic character design and work out the ideas. You don't need a complicated pose. Do multiples, put them out on the group or put them on the Discord, which might be the better idea because there is a proper art challenge room there on the Discord, and share it and get some feedback from the group about maybe what's working. Something else that I like that he's doing about his designs is he's doing both symmetrical and asymmetrical designs. Make sure that you're including some versions of each in your concepts. Then when you work that out, go work on your pose, find a pose that works well, and then design the environment to support that pose based on the space that is left in the image. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was answering some questions in chat. I didn't properly listen. Did you answer that with the floating, whether you can have him floating or not already?
Oh, floating?
Yeah, the monk, having him not stand but float as a pose for the challenge.
I would be okay with that as long as we're not getting the sensation that he's actually flying. If he's just slightly off of the ground, I think that would be acceptable.
Yeah. Okay. So he's not in a Superman pose, but like
right,
slightly
because,
being.
I've actually kind of ran into that situation with Magic before, where I had somebody airborne, and the art director had to tell me, "Okay, I can't have you do that because." If they're airborne, that usually means they have the flying capability, which is a specific ability in the game. And this character would not have this. So that distinction has to be clear that he's just using some sort of meditative aura to float rather than necessarily fly.
Yeah. Don't get too fancy, maybe, with the pose. So I will also try that because I'm also the kind of person that gets always super fancy with poses and rotations, and I think I will also try to restrict myself for this challenge and really get this planeswalker kind of feeling where you just see the character, how he stands there, shows what kind of person he is and what he can do. So I think that's the best thing.
I know that it's hard for a lot of people. You want to show how creative you are. And you want to just do this really dynamic piece. But that's not what Planeswalker images are about. You could just have this. This right here. Well, we need to showcase the right arm more, so you might reverse it. But something like this. I know it's not fancy, but that's what this piece is about. It is showcasing the character, full body. We don't want parts of the body off of the image. We also want most of the upper body visible in the upper part of the image. I didn't include it in the challenge, but like with the actual MTG, only this part is essentially visible. All this has text covering it up. So you can't have anything crucial on the bottom half, but you do have to illustrate the bottom half. So, kind of keep that in mind of how that would actually.
Yeah.
Also, a little update. I'm not showing you anything, but I am continually working on the website, and it's going to be released sooner than I originally thought. Because I was building in like a community forum sort of thing into the website. But with Discord, it's going to do basically all that stuff anyway. So I'm not going to have to finish all that part of the website. And we're going to, I don't know, I'm going to just have it point you to Discord instead. So I will be putting out the new Swatches home site soon. Yeah.
That's really cool. Good news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so people are asking for the template. We have it on Discord already, right? Did you already post it in the Facebook group?
For the challenge?
Yeah. So we have the, not the template, but we have the description posted in Discord.
Yeah, you can find it on Discord, and you can also read the whole thing on the Swatches store. The ticket, even though the tickets are sold out, you can still pull up the description at swatchesart.com under the ticket product.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can find a description there. The template you only get when you purchase a ticket, right? Like where you have templates? To fill in. Yeah.
No, see, I put those available somewhere.
Yeah, we need to find that. Maybe post it on Discord as well.
I have a Dropbox folder where I have an archive of the outlines of the challenges, and I will add the templates to that archive so that when you go out there to try one of those either current or past challenges, you can go ahead and download that template with you.
Yeah, so it's basically the same template for each challenge. You are always asked for the same stuff, like your references, your value studies, your sketches, and your color studies. And the painting.
And people can take a look. I have two versions for this one. Each is sized to the ratio of the image. Like the Warcraft is a horizontal splash art.
Cool.
And so all of the main image here is sized to that. And the compositions are, I didn't scale the values in the color studies. Sorry, I could have done that. But and this is a really good way to work in that you need to go do at least 3 composition studies that are very different, like low view, middle view, high view, left, center, right, triangular composition, radiating lines, symmetrical, asymmetrical compositions, that sort of thing, big variations. Then you pick the best one, and then you do value studies of it. And then you pick the best one of that, and you do color studies of it. Right? And then you put your main image down here. For the concept/sketch phase, those first 2 weeks, you don't really need to do colors on it. I'm more concerned about the character designs for both the elf and for Asheron, and the value studies and kind of how you're setting up the lights. And if you want to do a quick color overpaint of it to let me know kind of just where you're going with the colors, that's fine, but it doesn't need to be detailed. We don't need a lot of textury stuff. We don't need filters on it. It just needs to be very understandable. And make sure that you're using your lighting and style directions. Make sure you're having pose references, facial references, and environment references for your major things.
Yeah. Is the ratio the same as with the old challenges, like 3000 to 2200 pixels?
They're a little different.
Okay.
The Planeswalker one is sized to almost exactly what the actual Planeswalker image request is. I just simplified it because the normal one was like 3,387 pixels. It was something odd. So I just simplified it down to like 3,000. And then the other one is based on kind of their 1920 by 1080 widescreen, full screen ratio. Got those. Yeah, I showed this one the other day too. Just like something like this by this person. This is a good example of what a concept could look like. It's clear what's going on. It's not overly detailed. It has simple value scheme. It's understandable what the distances are and the planes of the image, that sort of thing. Looking for good shapes, we looked at this one as well. This is Tyler Edlin. Checking out his videos on YouTube. Excellent resource, very knowledgeable instructor. And he has a variety of different educational videos and courses and stuff like that that are worth checking out.
Yeah. So always remember, when you go very detailed already in the sketching phase, and you're asked to do a lot of changes, for example, a completely different camera angle or a completely different composition, then you have to redraw all of it and lost a lot of time. So don't get too fancy, don't get too much into tiny details. Like I can already see people doing every little thing on his clothes and the way his tattoos look with little lines and stuff, and we don't need that yet. So if you show us,
it's what is going to show up at a 2-inch wide printing on a magic card. That is what's the most important. The stitching pattern, not that important. The actual tattoo pattern, not that important. The blades of the grass, not that important. The chain, the little scales on the armor bits that he has, not important. What is going to read on a 2-inch print? That's important. Like these images here, they work when they're tiny. I can still make out the character. I can still make out the lighting. I can make out the pose. I can make out the general feeling of the image. I can't make out any details. But that's okay, it still works. That's what you focus on, those elements. Make sure those elements work, and then all the details are just extras. They're just beautiful little extras if you do get to see the image bigger.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by for the live stream. And for everyone that took the time to submit some images for the paint over. I know we didn't get to most of you, but thank you for submitting. And I hope to do something similar in the future. Make sure that you are jumping on the Discord. We're sort of overloading the Facebook group as far as being able to actually communicate and give people feedback. And yeah, we will have a live stream this Friday where we'll be looking at the finals for Group 2 of the Tomb of the Sphinx.
Yep.
And we will put up the tickets for the challenge for Group 2 this Saturday.
Cool stuff coming up this week. So thank you again for 5,000 members.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's crazy. Thank you so much, guys. And I'm very proud of the community. There are so many places on the internet that are so destructive. They're so vindictive. They're always combative. Very combative communities. And I don't feel like that's what we have at all. And I just want to thank people for being decent. Which is really nice. And thank you for giving people when you take the time to really give somebody good feedback, and it's not about proving that you're a better artist. It's about hey, this guy's really trying, but he can't quite, figure this out. And you're actually trying to help him, give him some options and maybe pull out some stuff that, they're not noticing. And that's great. And when you give somebody, a link to a tutorial that is really going to help them, or you give them a little paint over, it's really great. And I love seeing that sort of thing. And I just hope that we will continue growing, and maybe hopefully soon we'll get 10,000. And I'd love to have another stream.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
well, good stuff. Take care, guys. We will see you later. And until I see you next time, keep drawing.